Hey guys, Jess with Wreath. So today we are going to be starting yet another navy blue, orange, and burlap football wreath. I know it kind of seems like the same song and dance, but each one I'm making is unique and one of a kind. There's a little bit of variation. So you can really apply this technique to any theme. It's just lately orange and navy blue football has been selling, so I wanted to replace it in my shop. So let me give you the information before we get started. I am using 3 different colors of mesh on this wreath. There's this gorgeous burnt orange, a navy blue, and a burlap. So the item numbers are RE, let's see if we can see. There we go. RE130038, RE130219, and then RY800518. So that is on the mesh. We're going to be using a 14-inch Dollar Tree wire wreath frame, 18 pipe cleaners that I've cut about 1 inch or 1.5 inches off the ends because I never use the whole pipe cleaner and I don't like the extra step of having to go around and snip them all off, so I just cut them before I add them on. The ribbons that we're using, we have 1.5 inch navy blue, a 1.5 inch burlap, and then we have a 2.5 inch orange reflective leaf and a 2.5 inch navy blue and white plaid. So this is enough ribbon right here for 2 wreaths. I do plan on making 2 more of this wreath. I've sold 3 of them within the last couple of weeks. So I want to get them going and get them ready for my customers to put them on their door. I know there's kind of a small window of time before football season starts, especially down south, and this is where these colored football team is located. So like I said before, we're taking our 14-inch wire wreath frame. I bought this at the Dollar Tree, but you can buy it different places. I'm wiring on 18 pipe cleaners. So the way that I do it, I put one across these 2 brackets here, these 2 here. I'm putting it tight enough so that it doesn't move, but not so tight that I break the weld that's holding those together. I put one in between the 2 sections, so it ends up being 6 on the top layer and 12 on the bottom. Some people wire them differently where they measure like distances in between. I don't do that, but the way that I do this here with the 2 on the welds and then the 1 in between gives it a very even spacing, and everything stays put and looks pretty when it's created. As you make wreaths, you kind of realize what works for you, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Is that how that saying goes? But anyways, we're wiring this. We're using a brown pipe cleaner because even though you won't be able to see it from the front, when the customer sees the back of the wreath, they will be able to see it. So I do like to use pipe cleaners that match somewhat. I will be adding on foam footballs into this wreath, and they are the same brown as this brown color. So even though I don't have any orange or navy blue pipe cleaners, this brown works. I was trying to decide if I wanted to use this color, or I have a light burlap color pipe cleaner, but I do use those for my plain burlap wreaths that I sell in my Etsy shop. They're like wreath bases, or if a customer just wants plain burlap wreath, I do that, and it matches the burlap exactly, so that's why I do that pipe cleaner. These dark brown ones I only use for my bunny grapevine frames, and those are on Easter time, so that's why. All right, so I got that all wired up. Took 4 minutes. There you go. So I went ahead, I cut all of my mesh already so that it kind of just eliminated a step that you guys would have to sit and watch. I did, again, these are 10 inches wide, and then I cut them to 30 inches long. So what I always do is I roll it twice, and then I keep my thumb stationary, put my fingers, just gather them up the middle, trying to keep the mesh as even on both sides as possible. I flip it over so it kind of looks like a butterfly or a bow tie, and then I just put it down in one of those pipe cleaners. I don't open up the pipe cleaner or anything like that. I just set it down in there. I twist it once or twice as tightly as I can. You don't want to leave it loose because then the mesh can come out. And you also, I don't twist it like a bunch of times because I'm gonna come back through and put ribbon on top of there. So I don't need, when I'm all done, I'll put the ribbon in there and I'll tuck it under. But at this step, just twisting it once or twice just to make sure that that mesh doesn't come out is sufficient. So the pattern I'm going to be doing on this is just orange, burlap, blue. I know that the colors for this school are just orange and navy blue, but I have learned based on past experiences that if you put too much of a dark color, it tends to like look black, which isn't a bad thing with Halloween coming up, but it is still a little bit of summertime going on, and then football season starts. It's very beginning of fall. Those colors tend to be like a little bit lighter and you know, cheery and all that good stuff. So just my preference is to add a little bit of burlap in there. I do tend to use burlap shades in my wreath. I feel like it gives it a nice little natural look, and I just prefer the way that that looks. So there we go. There you go. I just try to make sure that my pipe cleaner isn't being covered up so that when I put my next piece of mesh down, it goes in a little bit easier. And again, I roll up once or twice, trying to keep that raw edge of the mesh tucked under. Mesh is a woven material, so it will fray, but we want to make it fray as little as possible. So I flip it over, I put that unfinished edge facing down, and then just twist it once or twice. And as I said before, we'll come back in and put that ribbon in after we put all of our mesh in. So there we go. Just going around. And it is kind of, it helps to beat the monotony by, you know, even though we have created a few wreaths in this color scheme and theme on this channel, they are all one of a kind. You know, some of them you can put in, you know, like natural colored raffia. One we put, you know, dark brown raffia only on the top. You know, you can mix it in with your florals and your pumpkins and all that good stuff. And I do plan on, I was thinking I have some really pretty deco mesh tubing that I can make bows out of for the outside. And it's like a blue and orange stripe. So that would work really well for this color scheme. So we're gonna try to do that. So let me know, are you a wreath maker? Are you just interested in how it's created? Or if you are a wreath maker, what themes have you been working on? I know that last year I had made a lot of fall wreaths, but then they didn't really sell during the fall season before Christmas. Like we started putting Christmas stuff out at the shop that I was selling at. But then it seems like they all ended up selling. So eventually. So even though I felt like at the time fall wasn't selling, it seems like as it got closer to Thanksgiving, and even I think in the springtime I sold a fall wreath. So I checked in my shop and it seems like fall is a little bit lacking. So I feel like after I get done with these two football wreaths, if they haven't sold yet, then I will probably move on to things like fall. I've been wanting to make orange and blue fall too, but not necessarily dark blue, like a more of a like denim blue or a medium blue. I have some really pretty, I think they call it that denim blue, they call it like cornflower blue, sunflower blue. Let me know if you remember what that's called. Let me know in the comments below. I don't know what a cornflower is, but I feel like I've heard that before. Anyways, it's like a medium blue, so it's not like sky blue, and it's also not navy blue. You have to let me know if you remember what it's called. So here we go. Just putting this one down. So it's all about just moving the mesh to the side a little bit before you put the next one in. You don't want the mesh to overlap each other. You kind of want them like butting up against each other. so that you get the most volume in your wreath and get like the most bang for your buck with the mesh that you're using. So we're just doing this with these cut to 30 inches. I do cut 3 rolls of mesh at a time because if you cut the 10-inch mesh at 30 inches, you will get enough for 2 wreaths out of 3 rolls of mesh. So I tend to make my wreaths that way, kind of batch them, doing 2 at a time in the same color scheme. That way it's kind of like working smarter, not harder necessarily. There we go. Moving on to our next piece. Gathering it up the middle, and then just rolling it a time or 2, flipping it over and putting it inside of the pipe cleaners. There we go. And put the navy blue in. I did cut, as I showed you before, those ribbons ahead of time. Can you still see it? Put that aside. After adding in all the embellishments, last time I did like pumpkins, and I did some footballs and some florals. We didn't even though you're able to see the ribbon, it wasn't as, all that fun stuff kind of covered it up. So it's a little bit different for me. There we go. Okay, we're done with the bottom level. Let's do the top level. We'll put the top layer of mesh in the same way, where you're just kind of moving the mesh to the side and laying it down, just kind of making sure that you're not covering anything up. There we go. And then just moving the mesh up a little bit like that. Just kind of putting it in like this. And different wreath makers have different techniques of how they like to set up their wreaths and put their mesh in. So after you do it a little bit, you'll realize what works for you. I remember I learned how to make wreaths by watching YouTube videos. Yeah, a lot of them. There is a woman, her name is Lori, with Hardworking Mom is what her wreath page is called, and that's who I learned from. That's who I learned how to make an Etsy shop and all that good stuff. So I don't even know if she still makes wreaths. I know that she doesn't use, I do know she makes wreaths. What I was trying to say is I don't think she makes wreaths this way. She uses pre-made wreath forms. But for me, they cost more. I know that it's convenient to not have to sit there and wire your frame, but I don't feel like the cost outweighs the time for me. I'm not at the point where where my time, I guess, is more valuable than the price to buy one of those frames. So to each his own. But this works for me. So here we go. Just laying that down in there. Making sure that all the mesh is sticking up. And then one more set to put through, and then we'll be able to add our ribbons in. You'll have to let me know, if you're a wreath maker, what is your favorite part of the wreath process? Is it designing it? Is it buying the supplies? Is it, matching everything, making the bow? You have to let me know what your favorite part is and what the part that you struggle with the most or need a little bit more practice. I know that my favorite part is adding in the embellishments. That's my favorite part, because I like how by then you'll have your mesh and your ribbon in, and you'll kind of see how it's all, even though I plan it out in my head, I never know exactly how it's going to turn out. There's always an element of surprise So I like that. I like adding the embellishments part. The part that I remember I struggled with the most when I first started making wreaths was like sign placement, like making sure that the sign is even and in the middle of your wreath. I know that sounds like that wouldn't be a challenging thing, but that was challenging for me for a little bit there until I learned that. Because what I would do is I would put it in, maybe I wouldn't have it equally tight on both sides, or you know, it wouldn't lay right, or who knows what. But I kind of learned what shape signs I like, you know, what kind of bow looks best with like a vertical sign versus a horizontal sign. And I think it's just trial and error. You kind of learn what works, what you like, what you don't like. But now I feel like my bows are kind of what makes the wreath stand out more. All right, so here we go. We got our nice full wreath base. There you go. Let's add our ribbons in now. So we have the ribbons that we talked about before. We had the navy, the burlap, 1.5 inch, 2.5 inch for these. I'm going to put the navy with the orange and then the plain burlap with the plaid. I like to, if I have a 1.5 and a 2.5, I like to pair those two together. And then I wouldn't want to put the navy with the navy plaid because I feel like this, there's enough of a difference between these two to make it look really pretty. So I try to keep it even on both sides. Kind of looks like a bird, I guess. And then I don't need to open up my pipe cleaners. I just lay it down on top of that mesh, and then I give it a good couple of twists, 2 twists, maybe 3, and then I just fold that pipe cleaner underneath so that it's not sticking up to poke anybody. And then just kind of fan out the ribbons a little bit like that, and then you move on to the next one. While I'm going around, I kind of straighten out the mesh a little bit. You want your ribbons pointing out of your wreath, not covered up at all, so that when it's on the customer's door, you can see all the ribbons and they're not totally hiding. So there we go. Kind of like that, put like a V, and just put it right down into that pipe cleaner. I'm not positive where I'm going to put my footballs yet. I know that when I do add the footballs in, I like to put them in the pipe cleaners. So I'm not positive. I know that the other football wreath that I have in my shop right now has a lot of the natural raffia in it, so I'm not going to do that in this one. I don't know what I'm going to do, if I'm going to put the tubing in or not. I'm not positive yet. I'll have to try to think about it while I'm building this around. If I was going to add the tubing in, I would put that in. I wouldn't tuck the pipe cleaners in at this step. I would add the tubing in. So I think, I gotta start thinking, because if I'm going to be doing that, I need to make that change now. What do you think? Maybe I'll just add some of the tubing around the top layer. That's probably what I'll do. So we'll leave the pipe cleaners open on the top. So there we go. We're just gathering it, pulling it towards us. Oh, that's not the right bottom one. There we go. I'm just folding it, making it look like a V, and then putting it in our wreath. All right. What do you guys like to do while you make your wreaths? Are you watching this YouTube channel while you're designing your own wreath? Are you doing that? I know that that's what I like to do. Like if I'm trying to get into the feel for fall, but it's still 90 degrees outside like it was here in Michigan yesterday. It was like 96. And I'm like, fall? It's so hot and sunny outside. So what I'll do is I'll watch either like a movie or, you know, maybe some wreath videos to get kind of the inspiration. Get into the mood for the season. So here we go, just adding these in. One on top of the other, folding it in half. These ribbons are cut to 13 inches. That's what I tend to cut mine at. They're not exactly 13 inches, they're between 12 and 13. That way the ribbons are long enough to be seen, but not so long that they're like flopping around. And I always use wired ribbon, so that way it helps stay put when I do ship them out, and then the customer, you know, stores them after a season. The customer can, you know, reshape them and get it looking as good as it looked when it arrived to them from me. So there we go. Put that in there, smoothing it out. This one goes in here. So this wreath, it does have 18 ties, but on these football wreaths, I don't use a sign. The bow is the focal point, so that means that I make the bows nice and large, and I only put in 17 pieces with the ribbon in it, 17 spots with the ribbon in it. I leave one spot empty on the top because that's where I put the bow, and I know based on the size of my bows that I use that if I put a ribbon cluster behind it, it wouldn't be able to be seen because of how big the bow is. I somehow messed up. There you go. I'm gonna make sure I don't mess up my order here. So here we go, putting it in, folding it down. This is when it's kind of nice to, you know, have something. Sometimes I watch shows while I make wreaths. Stick my phone against the wall and just, you know, this is a little bit monotonous, so having something to watch can be helpful. Or listening to some music. What do you guys like to do while you make wreaths? Let me know. And if there's a portion of this wreath that you need extra help with, let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or you can always fast forward this video to get to the part that you need most help with. I do tend to record my wreaths in parts. I rarely make a whole wreath at one time, and I think that that's helpful for some people that might be learning or starting out, where they're just there might be one part or the other that's a little bit more challenging for them. Everybody learns differently. So here we go. Putting that ribbon in, giving it a few good twists, or a couple good twists, and then fanning those ribbon tails out. My wreath is starting to get wider and it's starting to bump my ribbons. That happens. My wreaths usually end up being about 25 inches wide, about 8 inches deep, depending on how many embellishments I add in. So there we go. This is our last one on the bottom level. And then we're gonna hop to the top. And then we're gonna, I started prepping some of my embellishments already. I know I want to use some of the footballs. I just got a new batch of foam footballs in. I had used my last one on my last football wreath. This one here, I'm just folding under the pipe cleaner because that's where I'm going to put my bow. And the way that I prep my fall footballs is I get them from Amazon. They look like children's foam balls, kind of. They're brown. They kind of, I think they technically might be like one of those, like those stress balls that you squeeze. But they're the perfect size for my wreaths that I make. And I take an eyelet, like it has like a screw edge and then an eye part. An eye screw? I don't know what's that called. But anyways, I super glue them in to the football, and then I tie them into my wreath with the pipe cleaner. And then I put a teeny bit of Gorilla Glue, hot glue, to help stick it in place too, so it's not flopping around. But you'll see me add that in later on. Or you can see one of the other videos where I did that. It's up to you. So here we go. And then I am focusing on adding a lot of orange and blue embellishments. What is kind of nice with this color scheme, I have learned, is that it doesn't have to be like straight navy blue. If I add like, I added pumpkins last time that were in more of like that cornflower blue shade, and the customer didn't seem to mind. They still purchased that. So that's nice to have a little bit of variation in your tones. Let's make that a little bit even. And again, if the ribbon's not exactly even, it's totally okay. You just want to have it as even as possible. I'm just laying it down in there. Just twisting it once, and I'm leaving them up because I am going to add that tubing in. I'm going to come back through, get that ready, and add it in. And then I do have some blue ficus that I'm going to add in. I don't know if you guys have seen that video that I did. I was given a bunch of green ficus, which is gorgeous and beautiful to use for summer and spring wreaths, but I wanted it to match my blue theme, so I actually spray painted it like a matte blue color, and it looks really pretty added into the wreath. All right, so we are all done with that. We're all done with this layer. Now we have our ribbon and our mesh on, nice and full. Next time I see you, we're gonna start adding our embellishments in and making our bow. Thanks so much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. See ya.